Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Keeping Up with Keep interview series. We have a special guest. We go all the way back, oh my gosh, more than 10 years ago. We were student project journalists at SPJ in 2013 at their Anaheim convention. So today we are keeping up with
It
content creator and
going? It's so
journalist
good to
Jennifer
see
Matthews.
you.
Hello,
I'm so proud.
Jennifer.
I'm so proud of you. Talk about somebody that knows how to pivot. I'm like, oh my goodness, you are gonna always be a communicator and weatherman somehow, some way. So I'm super proud of you.
Well, thank you so much, Jennifer. And Jennifer, you have an illustrious career. I mean, come on. CBS, CNN, Billboard. I mean, you are a Grammy recording voting member.
Yeah.
You're a content creator, you're teaching. I mean, you're doing
Oh my
so much
gosh. When you
stuff.
say it like
So
that, yeah, I kind of
you
do a
got to
lot
toot
of
your own
stuff,
horn
but
too,
it's
you
just because
know.
I'm curious. That's all.
Yes, yes. And so, Jennifer, we're having this conversation because, I saw a post on LinkedIn that really resonated with me about the quiet exodus happening in our industry. So I'm just going to read a little blurb from that. And it says, it should alarm everybody, not just those who worked in media. How many journalists are leaving the newsroom right now? Across the country, local outlets are shutting down. Public broadcasting is being gutted. National newsrooms are restructuring faster than it can rebuild. Every week brings another headline about layoffs or strategic pivots, another team reduced to a handful of overworked reporters trying to do the job of 10. The numbers are staggering, but it's the human cost that hits hardest. Behind every byline cut is someone who once believed this industry could still save democracy, one well reported story at a time. That's a bar. Those are bars, Jennifer. Those are bars. So, what inspired you to write that post in LinkedIn just
So
a couple of weeks ago?
first of all, when I saw that PBS or an NPR was getting like funding cut due to the current like administration, I'm like, if public media is getting cut, there are for-profit media groups that are getting cut. There have been layoffs galore within CBS. There have been layoffs with different like media companies, and like even if they're like small departments, those departments are already like short staffed. I got out of the newsroom in 2023 and we were overworked and understaffed to put together, 5 to 6 hours of programming in a shift, right? And be on standby for breaking news. So if you start cutting that already slim group, these people we signed up to be journalists, not to make a bunch of money. We signed up to be truth tellers and storytellers and finding new ways to use technology to enable us to create better content for our viewers and meet them where they are. So when you cut that out or try to restructure that, eventually people are going to be not they don't want to be involved in the process moving forward. I'm an instructor. A lot of my students, they want to be influencers and content creators. They don't necessarily want to be journalists anymore. Like when we were coming up, we wanted to be like a Soledad O'Brien or a Walter Cronkite or who would name insert whatever journalist, Bernie Shaw, all these people that we looked up to and studied in J school. And we had an opportunity because at the height, when we were coming out of college, it was media convergence and newspapers were going digital and we were shooting videos with iPhones. Like we were in the experimental phase. And now we're here in this like technology AI phase and people
Yeah.
are trying to swap real people for AI. And it's like we haven't even tested that yet to make sure that even works. And you still need people to do it. So when I just saw different people getting let go, whether it's Gemma Costa, Harry Moran, when I'm seeing these people like get cut from the newsroom, it's like they have for every show that they anchor, they have a producer, a senior producer, a line producer, an editorial producer. Like these are people that don't have a job. When Joy Reid's show gets cut,
Hmm.
you can only restructure those shows and people. So for me, I was just like, I see people landing on their feet, but then I see other people that are like, let me take this payout and like just figure it out. And they may get back in the field or find some form of communication job to get into, or they just kind of give up. And I see a lot of my like colleagues and former colleagues like giving up or, going back to school. And I'm like, do you really want to go back to school right now? But it's just one of those things that I just saw, like, just a culmination of just headline after headline, and I was just like, "I just need to just figure this out because after a while, it's coming, and if we don't get it together, there are gonna be a lot of storytellers that are building their own brands, and we see it now. Like, you're on your own podcast. Substacks are growing and people are building their audience, and, like, we're all becoming citizen journalists, and it's like, who's gatekeeping or who's, monitoring the hall monitors? And that's where I feel like journalism is right now.
No, exactly, exactly. And I thought about because I wasn't sure if I was gonna leave the newsroom, to be quite honest, until this year. I worked as a news producer in Los Angeles, and as you know, LA, we've been hit with a lot of hard news this year from the fires, immigration raids, just the daily news grind of it all. And I tell you, some of my colleagues, I mean, be honest, we're overworked. I held journalism to such a high ethical standard,
Mhm.
and I realize we are a business at the end of the day.
It
But
it does. It
yeah, money
does.
talks.
It's just
Money
it's so because
talks.
I can rooms in the sales and marketing and advertising team weren't even near the newsroom. And now, like, you have newsrooms and, like, the advertisers and sales office is literally,
Yes.
like, across the newsroom. Like, where do they do that? Like, where do they do that? It is very much so if you really, really sit back sometime, you're like, "Oh, this is for profit." I literally work for a for-profit company. I just so happen to be telling stories every day.
And I think I just feel like this hit my ceiling and I needed something completely different. Because I got back into producing after getting laid off from my previous job where I worked as a meteorologist and digital producer for another media company. And that was my dream job. I just love that. I got to choose the stories, I got to report, and I was doing something I truly love. But then unfortunately a layoff happened. And thankfully I was able to pivot because of the connections I made
Mhm.
quickly. So I was just out of a job for a week, or I took a vacation for a week,
Mhm.
and then started my other job, which I'm very grateful for. Great people at the
Mhm.
newsroom that I work with. Just, news producing, I thought I left that behind a few years ago, and then I got back into it. Left on good terms
Yes.
when
That's
and then
always a
when I
good thing.
Yes, yes. So, when I got back into it, I was like, okay, I like the creativity of it and stuff. But then we got the election going on and all. And also, I'm taking care of a parent as well as I'm a caregiver to my mother. And I'm
Mhm.
just thinking about economically, is this best for me to support my family and myself? And then, you're in your 30s, I gotta worry about a pension or I need to invest in
Mhm.
stock. And I'm like, I mean, storytelling is great, but at the end of the day, you do need to survive.
Mortgages are due. Bills are
Yes.
due, okay? Like, that's real, that's real. I've always like, my mom is a two-time, breast cancer survivor. She's had open heart surgery, so I totally get taking care of an aging parent. And I also know, like, I've always known that I could always come back to Tulsa. Like, my great-grandmother left us a house, and we never sold it, so it's like, go big or go home. Like, when in doubt, I could do whatever it is to, like, get my bag, whatever, but I could always come back home. Like, and that has been, like, something, the silver lining in all of this, which made, like, the jump out of the newsroom easier for me because it's like, I know that, like, I have a foundation to go home to, but I know that that's not everybody's story. And these are conversations that we're as peers are having because we're the adults in the room. I always say right now the battle is not going to be between Gen X and the boomers. The battle is going to be between millennials and boomers that just won't get up out of here and retire and enjoy their lives. But they're like, well, when I was your age, and I'm like, well, when you were
Mhm.
our age, people were retiring. People were getting, like, trained to do stuff. You could actually go to college and, like, pay for it out of pocket.
Yes.
Like, so it's like we're having 3 different conversations, and for journalists, especially right now, like, we are missing the mark on, like, the stories that we should be telling. Yeah, we need to follow the money, we need to follow the administration, cool, 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 but what about the stories and the people that these numbers are attached to? These job numbers, these unemployment, 300,000, Black and brown people have been let go out of the workforce.
Mhm. Yes.
Like, federal workers, like, back in the day, if you had a government job, that you were doing things, and now people are losing those government jobs, so it's like, we need to start putting, like, the people next to these, stories or whatever, but it can be hard when it's like the editorial decisions of the day, it's like, that's really not a priority for us right now. We have other stories that are much more important. And it's like, but to who? Right. I believe that those journalists that have gotten out of the field that are building their brands now with telling stories and interviewing people and having these conversations, that is going to pay off after a while because these were the people that stood up. Like for me, I'm probably not ever going to be back in a journalist, like in a newsroom because I talk too much stuff. Like I'm on TikTok, I'm talking cash noise. I'm saying, you know what? If this had been any other place, we're teaching students and kids that this is okay. Like, after a while, it's coming. 50 years from now, when they're studying, like, what did we do during this time? They're going to be looking at the people that fell in line and the people that were bucking the norm. And the people that were bucking the norm are going to be the people that can, like, be adding Ken Burns on speed dial, like, hey, I'm thinking about doing a documentary right now. Let's talk about this era. And like that's what keeps me hopeful because after a while it's coming. And I do believe that the newsrooms that got it and that understood what time it was and said we're going to do this anyway versus the ones that are like, we won't run that story or we'll just put it in like the Dear E block is fine. I do believe that there's going to be conversations happening because history is repeating itself. That's just how it is.
Since you've been out of the newsroom for 2 years and now you're on this content creation push and now you're teaching, I mean, tell me how is that going? What is if you have an advice for someone who is considering doing that?
For the journalism students that I teach now, like I teach a lot of public speaking and a lot of interpersonal and intercultural communication classes, as well as news reporting and writing. And I tell my students all the time, if you don't necessarily need a journalism degree to create content. Like I'm working on a research paper right now because at the height of the 2024 election, we saw a lot of influencers on Capitol Hill giving, content. No shade to Aaron Parnas. I love him, but you did not go to school for journalism. So there are certain things that I disregard because I'm like, you didn't go through standards and practices for that. You didn't get that cleared by, your legal team. And there are just levels when you're a journalist that you are trained to do. But on the flip side, if you tell a story and mispronounce or misuse some facts, nobody's going to cut you off the air. Like, it'll just be something that you either have to apologize or you get fired for. But you don't lose a license. You can go do a whole nother job in a whole nother newsroom. But for my students, I always say, with all that happening, you also need to understand that your brand is like what people know you by. And you want to be honest and you want to be factual. You definitely want to have some kind of degree to back you up to show that you had the discipline to study the nuts and bolts in this field. You might want to pair it with a MBA or a cybersecurity or something else like to help navigate because now we're in like the data science era and AI. So it's like now you can't just have a journalism degree. It has to be a journalism degree and or a certification to make sure that like you're always hireable because the way in which AI is moving and these companies are dumping money into it, like they're trying to replace what we do. And I'm like, yeah, AI is an assistant. It's not a crutch. Like it can't out create me. It can help me sort through some thoughts, but it can't outcreate me, like, at all. And that's what I really tell students because they use AI, they use ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini, all the
Mhm.
things, but it's just like understand how and why you're using it, and is it making you a better storyteller, or are you just cranking out the content to be a part of the conversation? Because that's gonna really make or break the true storytellers versus just people that create content here and there.
Ooh, that's a good bar.
I'm telling you, I do not care these days. I'm literally like the gloves are off because I just feel like 2013, 24. I would say 2015, the graduating class, whoever graduated college in 2015, that was like the last group that really, really got to go to college and learn media law, conceptual issues in mass communication and understand how to write an inverted pyramid and really got to intern at different places that actually paid you to put your, skills to the test. Like we rarely have like fellowships now, like for students to really get into a newsroom and really, try to flex their muscles. So what do? They go and join TikTok or they go be on Substack and bring their following there. And they're making money. Like, I have
Yes.
several students right now that, like, I look at their Substack and their TikTok, and I'm like, "Alright, so if you're gonna do this, if you're gonna do this series, here are a couple things that I would tweak, because 'Cause you're not necessarily a journalist yet, because you don't have a degree, but you also have a following and you're storytelling at the same time. It's no different than when we had our portfolios and had, our reels and stuff on our websites. It's just it looks different, so we can't not acknowledge that, but it's like, you need to have just a little bit more, just a little bit more for the after while. I will stay back there. After while is coming, and journalism is going to still it'll look different, but the nuts and bolts of what journalism is will always stand unless they dismantle the Constitution, which that's a conversation for another day.
Speaking of AI, because sometimes I use AI for a design, like when designing my logo and stuff. That's like I'm a terrible artist. I just told them what I wanted, and they gave me some options.
Mhm. Yep.
So I do that, and also because like my news back, producing. Because I realize when I'm writing my scripts that I do tell chat to water it down because I'm just because you were taught because I always feel like I can't be as creative as I wanted to be.
Not
And
never.
as a producer, so I had it's gonna be standard. So I said, could you just, amp it up a little bit?
Of course, of course. It's assisting you, but you're not using it as a crutch to say, "Write this." You're saying, "Hey, this is what I got. Help me."
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, "Do this," and go on about their business.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. So that's like, and plus, I'm the final editor at the end of the day,
Mhm,
and I feel like that's what sets apart a journalist from a content creator that's doing journalist work. That I'm doing that extra layer of accountability, accuracy, making sure that because when I'm cut, because I realize trust is my currency,
mhm, yep.
and if I'm saying something inaccurate, that's gonna look bad on me.
Yes, because people are brutal in the comments.
Yes, yes. So I always make sure, like even when I'm choosing stories, I always make sure I look at three different articles and see whether talking or is there a nugget I can pull that I should talk about that wasn't talked about in this article. So that's how it's media literacy.
Yes. Oh my goodness. We can tell you everything, but if you can't comprehend, like, that's just, you know.
Yeah, media literacy is an important skill, folks, especially in this time. Please.
Mhm. Please, if you don't take anything, please do yourself check multiple sources on one story.
Yes. Yes. Please do. Please do. So then I also want to talk about that, I guess, that battle between the journalist and content creator, because now we're seeing some content creator jobs in the journalism roles. Like the California Post is looking for a content creator for their news outlet. And some stations are partnering with content creators with their, established veteran journalists on TikTok and Instagram. So how do you feel about that? And where do you think that's going? Is this right?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because what did my grandma say? If you let the devil ride, he gonna want to drive. So you open the door and you say, okay, content creators, we want to partner with you. We want to pair you with a veteran journalist. We want you to teach them the tips and the tricks of like how you grew your audience, however you did, whether it's skits or, just being consistent on the algorithm, because that's what people are doing on social. They're consistent. The algorithm sees it and they reward them with visibility. Like that's just the back end of social media one on one. So you bring that person in with a journalist who literally has to be a brand for a company, understand standards. You can't post this. Every company has a social media policy. This content creator might not understand what a social media policy is. The company might actually know that they have a social media policy and look the other way because they're like, well, if we can get this content creator with hundreds of thousands of followers, like that'll like trickle down into some like monetization. Cause that's ultimately what these companies want. They want viewership. And I'm like, sometimes followers and viewers is not engagement. Engagement is the currency that you're looking for, not the viewership. You're looking at people that are interacting with what you're doing. So I could see a timeline where the content creators are in these newsrooms and then these veteran journalists are pushed out of the newsroom because it's like, okay, well, we're restructuring, after testing out this theory, like we don't necessarily want journalists in the newsroom. We're just going to train these content creators. Like, and I see that that could be some like how that happens, especially if the criteria isn't you had to go to school for communication, journalism, or marketing. Like, I don't see how that works, especially like when I see job descriptions, it's just like, well, what's the education criteria? What's the experience that you have to have? Like, I'm not saying you have to start in Killeen, Texas, no shade, but at the same time, it's like, I don't see that working out after a while.
Yes, yes. Because there's some experiences you just have to, if you have a certain number of followers, because that's usually the experience. Because I see it for Snapchat. I mean, this content creator journalism game is really blowing up. I mean, I understand that we do need to go where the viewers are. Because there is a difference. I think because I was reading something on LinkedIn, news people are fighting for viewership, but you should be fighting for people's attention. Because
Exactly.
because a content creator is getting the attention of millions of people as a broadcast, maybe half that at the
See,
night.
and I'm always push back on that because I'm just like, yeah, but what's the engagement looking like? If you really go into the nuts and bolts of these followers that have, like, what is the engagement in the content? If we look on the back end and watch the view time from start to finish, the percentage of followers that this person has versus the percentage of people that watch the story or the video from start to finish, like, is that a high percentage number or is that a low percentage number? What are the comment sections looking like? Are they bots? Are they like full sentences? Like, are there engaging debates? And I think that we throw around content creator. Like, we just throw that around like somehow that's going to solve the viewership problem when it's really like your content needs to like be thought out. Like, you need to really put people back into the storytelling. And I feel like we just take headlines and just say, okay, here's, however many people filed unemployment this week. Cool. All right, this comes on the heel of whatever summit is happening. Nobody gives a damn. Like, I care about like the federal worker that's been furloughed that's not getting paid but is having to DoorDash this week. Or the
Hmm.
growing number of full-time job having people that find themselves homeless because they're not making the money for a mortgage or to sustain rent. A content creator, do they care about sharing that to their followers? And if they do, are they going to be able to retain those followers? Because maybe their followers came to them for different reasons. Because there's a lot of people that started off, covering fight videos and UFC fights and all that. And now, like, they're all of a sudden covering news. And it's just like, okay, so if you do that too much, are your like followers gonna stay or are they gonna be like, I didn't come here for this? So it's an ongoing it just annoys me because I'm just like, that's not gonna solve the problem. Y'all don't wanna have the conversation that's gonna solve the problem because y'all don't wanna spend money. Y'all wanna give people like extra salaries when y'all can actually cut some of these salaries and put more money into paying actual journalists to cover stories because we are resourceful.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? And also, I feel it's forgotten that as a news producer, we are journalists too. We may not be on air reporting the news daily, but we can report.
How many producers do like stand-ups and stuff on social media now? Like, producers from behind the desk, hey, this is the news you could use, the top 5 stories of the hour. Like, producers are doing that now because they're short-staffed.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And I think there's also a type of imposter syndrome because I always felt like I, just for me personally, I just felt like I didn't feel as handsome on air. I was
Believe
been told I was not. And so it's like, and it gets to that maybe I can't report because I don't, I don't look handsome, but I have the skills to do that. And I'm doing, and I did that before.
Mhm.
I had an opportunity to do that before, and now I'm like, yeah, I can do this. I may not be your ideal version of what you see on television, but I'm something that's, authentic and natural, natural
Yeah.
for
And
people.
producers write for the anchors, okay? The producers are the first line of defense for the anchors. I always say that, like, when I'm talking to, like, I was told long time ago, I wanted to be a on-air reporter. But Georgia Dawkins, I'll never forget, she was like, if you want to move quickly in this business, be a producer. And I said, bet, say less. Say less. Yeah. And it's true, because if you're a producer, that means you're a writer, and if you're a writer, that means you're resourceful. If you're resourceful, that means that you're hireable, which means that you can turn somebody into an on-air personality if they know how to write, if they know how to wing it in case the teleprompter goes down. You know, like there's so
Yeah.
many things that people just assume like news media is, because we don't do a good job of just sharing, like, you see a 30-minute newscast, but there for that one 30-minute newscast, there's probably 30 people making the show run. And we're not even talking about the directors on the floor, making sure that the
Mhm.
lighting and the cameras are working. And it's like we are taking away from that. And it's like at some point you have to look at that's a growing problem, and you're forcing journalists into entrepreneurship. Like that's what's happening right now. These corporations are forcing journalists into freelance work, and a lot of these companies are like, "Hey, well we can contract a journalist for like 6 to 8 months to help us with branding and storytelling and producing video, cuz I mean that's all I do in the web3 and decentralized media space. I
Mhm.
create content, and hey, founders, I know you don't really like to be on camera, but if you want people to be enjoying what you're building in this space, you got to want to talk about it. So let me help you." And I feel like that's what's happening a lot now. And then it's like if there's a lot of us on the entrepreneurial track because we've been pushed out of the newsroom due to restructuring. After a while, when you actually need journalists in the newsroom, are you really going to ask a bunch of journalists that you kicked out to come back? And what does that conversation look like? Because the demands are going to be different. And I don't think people have thought that far, especially not from the top down, of what that looks like on the other side of this when you actually need journalists in the newsroom to tell stories. And y'all have kicked them out. And now they're doing their own thing. And it's like, I make $10,000, $15,000 a month just creating content on my own and taxing myself if I'm doing contract work for a company. Cause that's the silent like exodus that I was talking about in my LinkedIn post. Like, because we're resourceful, we're finding our money. It might be a little, you might catch what you kill, but like we're still doing it because it's a skill. And content creation, just putting up a phone and recording yourself, that's not understanding the rule of thirds or lighting or a white balance. Like it's so annoying. I get so annoyed talking about it because I'm just like, these are things that we just were like taught to do, and it's like that just is out of the window right now because it's like what can get eyes on the tube, and it's like whatever.
That's how the story goes. I mean,
I hate it.
like when I left news and now I work for a public agency now. Well, it's public. I work for LA Metro. You can,
I love
and,
that. I love that
oh,
for you.
oh, yes.
I
Thank you,
love that
thank
for
you.
you because you are doing like journalist stuff. Like you are educating people as like a news reporter. And it's cool. The content is cool.
Thank you, thank you. I was very nervous. It was a pitch because we had like an introduction section about how introduce yourself to the team. And since I'm dabbling now in this content creator journey and rebranding, keeping up with Keith, I thought, you know what? I'm not gonna do a PowerPoint presentation. I just do some type of TikTok style video to show my skills. Because as a producer, I want to show than tell.
Mhm,
And so I put it together and they liked it. And then the meteorologist idea came out. Oh, meteorologist, metro. Okay, meteorologist. I have the degree.
mhm,
And no one on my team has it but me. So it's exclusive to me only. And then I worked with my colleagues and they helped me film it. And we put it together because at work one day I was trying to figure out how am I going to do this because they wanted me to do a green screen. I'm like, oh, I don't like green screen just personally myself.
mhm,
And then one day I went to the office and I thought, oh, we have a big TV screen in our meeting room, so let me just use that. And then while I was recording, I realized, oh crap, it's a touch screen. Perfect.
mhm.
And newsrooms have touchscreen. I know how to use that. and
Yeah.
then and then the concept started and yeah, and they're doing really well so far. So I'm really happy about that. So yeah, I'm the
See?
meteorologist.
See? And only you can do that because who else knows how to, like, produce? Like, because your mind thinks like that. Not everybody's mind is trained to think like that. Like, that
Hmm.
is a skill. Not everybody has that. AI can't do that.
Yes, someone funny story. Last week on my post, someone said, is this AI? And in my this week's recording, I'm saying I'm not AI. No. If I was I would tell them to give me powers like Storm so I could fire weather out of my hands, but I can't.
Mhm. If we're using AI, let's make it like, believable.
Yes, yes, exactly. So, and I also want to follow back with,
Yeah.
Web3. So, what is Web3 for our audience that doesn't know what that is?
So Web3 is like a decentralized it is a life that works on blockchains. Right now, I work a lot with cryptocurrency. I'm most familiar with Ethereum and Bitcoin and obviously Solana. So we have different protocols. Right now, I work with a company called SheFi, which is basically under Maggie Love. She is teaching women about and non-binary people about Web3, what you can do, creating content for a Coinbase, which is a decentralized or centralized, decentralized wallet for users to, invest in Bitcoin or whatever that they want to. At Community Labs, it was building out protocols for whether it's storytelling on blockchain, whether it's creating NFTs for artists that want to just create their work. People that are using AI to create art and selling it as NFTs or non fungible tokens are making money, and they're all doing it in this space that is was an idea of just being free and doing peer to peer as opposed to having like a middleman in between to help you do transactions. So for me, I started out with an NFT company called Rug Radio, which is the first decentralized media group. And they were basically paying creators to join their program, whether you had a podcast, whether you had music that you wanted to release, whether you wanted to do a daily show, and they would reward you with tokens. Which to me, that's a great idea in theory. But when you start like really doing that over and over again, the idea comes like, okay, so why don't we just have a media outlet of our own? Which now Rug Radio is Decrypt. So a lot of our creators have moved to writing stories about, what's going on in cryptocurrency and public policy. So it's just a cool way of, being in a decentralized environment to where you have more ownership in what you do, whether it's content creation. I use this app called Base that's basically like Twitter, but people can pay for my posts and it's just ownership. So you're basically monetizing your audience in Web3 in a way to where if you post something on like Twitter and you have a following, they issue out your payments based on their criteria of what your engagement is. Where if you're on a decentralized place like a Base or Lens protocol or what have you, or Decentraland, people are paying you and it goes directly to you. So, and it's all public, and that's the best part because you can't have any funny business because people follow wallets all the time.
Mhm. Oh, wow, that's fantastic.
It's
Wow,
a
I did
lot
not know
going on.
that.
It is a lot going on in Web3. Like every day I learn something new because I'm like, so about these white papers, because for me as a journalist, I one of the things I tell like companies in Web3, because they're very technical and developer based, I'm like, help me simplify this. If we cannot explain it to a 5-year-old, like the masses are not gonna understand it. So help me help you. So I work with a lot of founders, like the founder from Rug Radio, the founder of Zirkit. Like they're just people that I find like I'll drop them a DM. Hey, I noticed a couple of things on your, Instagram or Twitter. Like let's jazz that up. And even in Web3, there's still a content problem because they're like, oh, we want, a content lead, but it's like we want you to have already been in the Web3 space and blockchain space for 3 to 5 years. And it's like, yeah, y'all are gonna have high turnover because these people are not trained to be journalists. So they don't think a certain way. They don't think of the why should I care factor. They care, like they think of what can sell, what can get users. And it's like, well, you need the user retainment, like, and engagement, which all roads lead back to engagement. Are people engaged in what you're talking about or sharing? Like,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I mean, is there like a beginner guide if someone wants to get into Web3 if they're watching us? Like, what would be the best advice?
I so Blockworks, they completely dismantled their whole editorial department. Like they were a crypto media company that covered nothing but cryptocurrency and they dismantled, which I'm actually writing a Substack now about like the same thing that's happening in I see parallels between Web 2 life, regular what we do, and like newsrooms that are focusing on cryptocurrency, and all roads lead back to y'all don't want to pay people to tell stories. Y'all want to pay people to use products, but it's like there has to be a storytelling aspect to make people want to keep coming back. And I think that people just don't think that we are I think people think of us as an afterthought, as storytellers, as journalists, like, "Oh, anybody can do it." No, anybody just can't, because there's a certain practice that you have to have. But if somebody wanted to get into, like, Web3, uh, CoinDesk, they are a complete decentralized media group. Decrypt is very much so, intro media guide for how to, like, understand the news that you could use. There's a content creator called Tyler D who was in the financial markets for years and then ended up, like, writing for Decrypt, for specifically for beginners. So, those would be like, the 2 that I trust, and then for my women and non-binary, She-Fi is gonna always be a go-to because they actually have, like, a cohort to teach you over 8 to 12 weeks about Web3 and wallets and token exchanges, and you get to actually do live demos to learn. So, it's been fun. I enjoy it.
Wow, okay, that's cool, okay. I did not even know about this industry at all, so this is
I didn't
education
either.
for
I didn't either. I was just curious because I was during the Clubhouse days, like early pandemic. I was just joining Clubhouse groups and I heard like Web3 and cryptocurrency, and I was like, oh, bet. Like, this seems fun. Like, again, I was leaving the newsroom, at CBS, and I'm like, I'm in New York. I'm all alone. Like, they have curfews. Like, I need to find an outlet to do something. So I started joining these groups. And before you know it, like, I was just asking questions like a typical journalist. When you don't know, you're gonna ask. And we ask like questions and follow-up questions. And those follow-up questions turn into conversation. So here I am 4 years later, still knee deep in it.
Okay, okay, so we are gonna make a pivot to your entertainment
Yes,
career real
of
quick,
course. Yes.
because you are a voting member of the Academy for the Oscars and the Recording Academy for the Grammys.
Yes, yes.
So I want first of all, because I know you worked at Billboard, did some other entertainment companies and stuff. So how do you, I guess, become a voting member?
So, okay, so voting member is okay. So voting member, you have to actually have like a lot of like credits or like
Mm,
news stories or pitches. Like I mean, it is very rigorous. Like, I just got like the voting title maybe like 2 years ago, but I have been a member of the Recording Academy as a professional member since 2017. And that was because I was a journalist at the time. I was in Atlanta and I was already a singer songwriter, credits to my name. So it was an easy pitch to get me in the door, but it
yes.
takes so much to get to that like welcome class. And it's a lot of networking. Very much so like journalists, how we network with like news directors from different like markets, like those conversations start early. So I submitted, I recommend like a couple of people recommended me and things happened and I was like, this is nice, but it's no different than the only difference between a professional membership and a voting membership is you get to vote. That's it. But everybody else, you get your invite to the Grammys, you get the invites to all the side events. Like, if you know somebody that's doing like certain events that week, like, you still have the open invite. It's just you cannot vote. Now you can influence voters because you get the for your considerations in the email, but it's like you personally can't vote. But shout out to the Recording Academy for, like, broadening the web of voters to make sure that we really do have diverse wins every year.
Yes, no, absolutely. I mean, even looking at this year's Grammy, like even in Album of the Year, I was extremely surprised how there's a lot of hip hop, and rap
Mhm.
in that category, and because usually
Yes.
it's usually like Americana or country Americana that's usually dominating
Yes.
those categories, and I was honestly my jaw was on the
Yes.
floor.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, and these conversations, like, were happening, like, whether you're looking at album of the year, song of the year, it's a lot of intentionality. Like, I'm so glad that Leon Thomas is nominated for album of the year. I did a video on TikTok last year when GNX dropped because I was like, is it an album? Is it a mixtape? Because that matters when like it's time for consideration for Grammys. And there's so much intentionality now with like releasing a project and getting fans involved and making, people excited about what you have going on. And I think album of the year and song of the year are going to be like two categories that are like, it's anybody's game. You can't really
Yeah,
just say like, oh, so and so is going to win. Like, you
yeah,
can't. So it's
yeah.
a lot going on. with the Recording
Okay.
Academy, but there's a lot of intentionality, and it has had a lot of work on the back end. Shout
Mhm.
out to the members.
Yes. And, I have a question because about the best new artist category, because this is where I sometimes get confused. Because
Mhm,
honestly, I think it's going to be a toss up between Leon Thomas and Olivia Dean.
mhm.
But Olivia's Dean album, I know her album missed the cutoff. So why couldn't she not? I guess why was she nominated this year, not nominated next year when her album is eligible for those categories? If that makes sense.
You know, it all goes down, like, it you remember how I was just saying, like, people, like, put together, like, for your consideration packets?
Hmm.
If an artist or somebody has not gotten a certain nomination, it is always usually the team. Somebody on the team dropped the ball because most teams have all the dates for consideration, the initial round to submit, the second round to submit. Like if you are not nominated and you dropped an album within that period that of eligibility, if you are not nominated, fire your team because somebody dropped the ball. Because even after the Grammys, there's always a follow-up email with the next dates for the next Grammy, the next voting period, and it's
Hmm.
like it's your team. It's your team.
Okay. Okay, got it. No, I know it's the label because I think the label did not expect for her to meteoric like rise extremely quickly.
Yes, and that has a lot to do like, budget always it all goes back to budget, but I've seen a lot of teams not have a budget and still get the Grammy consideration submitted, like, immediately and roll out the email and the billboard ads and the music, business worldwide ads, like, some people just are
Okay.
more proactive than others.
Okay, gotcha. Because I just felt if her album was in the mix, I felt she had a very good chance of winning.
Absolutely.
And I feel next year may be a little bit more difficult, knowing what
Mhm.
else is coming down the pipe. I know Taylor. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. Do not nominate that Taylor Swift album, please.
But her team is gonna be on it. They are going to be on it. Like,
I know
they are going to be on it.
it's Reputation 2.0, in my opinion. That's
Yeah.
what it gives. Reputation 2.0. The other albums, I agree. I love 1989. Pop,
Everybody
pop, iconic pop. But this, no, no.
yeah.
But I'm
And
afraid.
I love Taylor Swift, and I'm just like, "Girl, you could have skipped this one. Like, you could have went back to the drawing board." I would have much rathered a post, like, married Taylor Swift album. But this one, I'm like, "Girl, I love you, but I don't think this one is it. I don't think it's it for
Yeah.
you."
Yes, yeah. So I mean, I don't know because I know some other albums are coming out next year that are highly anticipated. So
Mm. Oh yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'm really looking at song of the year and album of the year. Those are like the two because like song of the year is always cool, and record of the year because record really honors like the songwriters and everybody that was behind the scenes. And I love Billie Eilish, but I'm just like I would love to see a Bad Bunny sweep this year. I just
yes,
feel like politically, society, with everything going on with like immigration and all, I just feel like it puts me in the mind of when Despacito was like the number one album or the number one song. And it's like, I remember interviewing Luis at the Grammys because it was held in New York. And I was just like, how do you feel about knowing everything that's happening in society that the number one song in America is in Spanish? For me, I'm more so of the because I'm a journalist at heart, I'm like, what's
yeah.
the storylines that can come out of the Grammys? Like, I know what I want personally, but what stories can come out? Because art imitates life. And I feel
Hmm.
like more and more Grammys and Academy Awards and Oscars, I feel like it's going to be moving more towards that as opposed to like who's the most popular. It's like who's the most unique.
No,
But that's
exactly.
but who am I? I don't know. Who am I?
No, no, no. I think it's a Bad Bunny. I've been talking to some of my friends too. They think it's Bad Bunny, and plus, I think it comes after the Super Bowl. So
I believe
it's
so. Or right after. Or
yeah,
right
right.
after.
Yeah, right, or maybe just before or right after. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's just like it just seems like it's karmic,
Hmm.
like it's being set up that way.
'Cause we saw with Kendrick last year, like, I mean, he
Yeah.
swept and it off a diss track.
Yeah.
But
Ye
we were here for it. But we were here for it. Like, storylines matter, context matters, and I feel like authenticity is what is really going to be a game changer for any content creator of any kind, whether you're a journalist, whether you're strictly content, whether you're business development, like, what is the context behind what you're creating? Can people resonate with it? Can people identify with it? And I feel like we don't have enough content where people can identify because we are chasing aesthetics and not really engagement and relatability.
Mhm.
But,
Ex
but again, who am I? Who am I?
exactly. So before we wrap this up,
Yes.
yes, Jennifer, so what are you keeping up on?
Well, right now, I must say, as I'm a member of the Writers Guild of America, and right now we're headed into Oscar season, award season. I just saw Jay Kelly like a couple weeks ago with George Clooney. Really dope movie. I'm not a spoiler giver, but I must say I do believe that this year is like Leo DiCaprio's year because Battle After Another, that movie is 3 hours long, but it
Yeah.
is so worth. You don't even remember, like, you don't even know that you're sitting in the theater watching it for 3 hours. Like, that's how quick the story moves, and I feel like that album or not album, that award, like, that movie might actually sweep, whether we're talking about Best Picture, Best Director, just because it socks off. But then for me, I watched, Blue Moon with Ethan Hawke. Now, as a Tulsa girl, I've been watching The Lowdown, and The Lowdown is, filmed in my hometown, and it's very much so true, the storyline. If you wanna know anything about Tulsa, Oklahoma as a whole, The Lowdown does a perfect job with that, and United States history runs through Tulsa, Oklahoma, just historically. But his acting chops might get him over the threshold for best actor this year for Blue Moon. Phenomenal movie. If people have not seen it, it's one for it's one for the library. But, you know, I'm doing a whole lot of stuff. It's Christmas time, so I'm like, working in hibernation, working on like music and stuff and art to come out with Q1. I'm very fortunate to like be able to come back to Oklahoma and just chill out with the family and not really have to work too hard during the winter months, if you will. But that's because I worked really, really hard during like Q3. So I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm gonna rest because that's one thing in news that we really don't get to do is rest and eat like we're supposed to. So, but that's what I got going on.
No, exactly. Well, okay, awesome. Any last words for us?
If you're thinking about it, go ahead and do it. If it's on your heart, if it's on your mind, go ahead and do it. Even if you fail, do it messy, do it wrong, but just do it, okay? Don't wait for somebody to tell you to do it or give their opinion on if it's a good or bad idea. Just do it.
Love it. Just do it. And, Jennifer, where can my listeners follow you at? Where can they find you?
Uh, it is Jen Marie INC on everything. On everything.
Okay, okay. So make sure you follow Jennifer. I mean, she's dropping gems every day. So,
I try. I feel like remiss if I don't share. Sometimes my friends are like, "You overshare." I'm like, "I'd much rather overshare than somebody feel like I shortchanged them with information because I withheld something." So I'm like, "No, whatever you go ask, and if I can answer, I will. And if I don't know the answer, I will redirect you to somebody that can answer."
yes, yes. Well, no, great. This is a great catch up. Thank you, Jennifer, so
Yes, thank
much.
you. It's been
Yes.
fun.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And remember, this episode, you can see it on my channel. So Keeping Up with Keith, so you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, everything at Keeping Up with Keith. Keeping Up with Keith. Okay. So, everyone, thank you so much. Thank you, Jennifer. And everyone, have a happy Thanksgiving and have a good day.